Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So today is the day I need to decide what I'm going to do next. The back bumper is done, and I'd really like to get started on the paint, but I've got all the materials for the bumpers and the sidebars, so I'm thinking I'd be smart to do those before the paint. So I think that's what I am going to do. I may change my mind, but right now I think that's what I'm going to do. So I do have the material. I've got square tube. It's just going to be a single square tube. This is pretty much the stock Jeep bumper. As you can see, it was just a piece of channel, and I just took some 3-inch exhaust tubing, some heavy wall 3-inch exhaust tubing at the place I used to work at, used for big diesels and motorhomes and things like that, and I just put a couple bends in it, and I just put some skip welds down it. So part of me says just to take this off complete with the original rear bumper and sell it as a tube bumper, but you know what, it would probably cost me $100 to buy another piece of tube, another piece of channel or another original bumper, and so I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I am just going to pull all this off. I'm going to obviously have to get the high lift jack out of here, or it's probably a Harbor Freight jack, knowing me. And I think I'm just going to plasma cut through those welds. I'll take the whole thing off and take it inside where I can use my 50 amp plasma cutter. And I'll just grind the rest of it off. And I also got a winch plate. I bought this a long time ago and never used it because it doesn't fit on with the tube bumper, and I never got around to modifying it. But I even have the instructions someplace. I bought this a long time ago on sale. They're about 5 times more expensive now than I paid back then, but I think I'll incorporate that in since I have it. So, yeah, let's get this thing apart and off of there and get that old stuff cut off. Okay, so I got the jack off. That doesn't really sound good, does it? Anyway, it's off. The mounts for it are off. I think all I have to do now is pull these 4 bolts, one top and bottom on either side, and the whole thing should come off. I note that one of the mounts I had for the jack also holds the steering box on. Not that that was any issue. For you guys putting winches on these, be aware that if you bolt the winch directly to this plate, it's not all that thick. It's only about 1/8 inch thick or so, and the steering box is mounted to it. So if you bend that up with a winch, your steering will be wonky. So not the great idea. You want to put a plate on it, and I'm looking at this plate and I'm just wondering how it goes on, because holes don't really line up with anything. I'm assuming these holes here are for the winch, and these holes there are to mount it. I got instructions for it, so I'll have to check those out. But anyway, I want to incorporate that in it. So now I'm just going to pull this off, and we'll try and chop off that tube. All right, I got that off. That wasn't as bad as I thought. I think I'm going to get this cleaned up and maybe painted a little bit. But here's the old one, and you can see it was actually rusting out as well. Like I say, this was just 3-inch exhaust tubing, and I put this on originally in Washington State. And while it rarely snowed where I lived in Washington, they did not salt the road. So it's just exhaust tubing and a lot of moisture. This exhaust tubing, it would damn near rust on the rack if it wasn't covered in oil. Also, I got the winch plate here, and I think I've figured the winch plate out. The holes don't line up, but I don't think they're supposed to line up. It also comes with these great big mounts, and these great big holes line up with these great big holes on the side, and then it's got these square holes in the top. Typically when you see square holes, you're going to use a carriage bolt because they won't turn in it. But when I looked at the hardware kit that came with it, maybe a lot of nice fasteners with it, but even grade 8, but there aren't no carriage bolts in it, so we'll figure that all out. But like I say, I'm going to get this cleaned up and painted and get the bolt back in the bolt back in the steering box, and then I'll get the winch plate on. And once the winch plate's on, then I'll start thinking about what I'm going to do with the bumper. Still got to cut the exhaust tubing. Still got to cut the exhaust tubing off of that piece of channel, which was the original bumper, but that shouldn't be any big deal with the plasma cutter. So that's next. Well, I was wrong. There are carriage bolts in that kit. They're black and they're just hard to see through the wrapper, but they're in there. All right, another morning working on the old Jeep. It is a balmy 53 degrees out this morning, and I know that's a lovely day for some of you guys, but for us here in Arizona, I was getting used to 110 degree temperatures not that long ago, so 52 is a little cold to me. But I'm going to try and get this winch plate installed today. I actually found the instructions. This thing's got to be 25 years old or so. This was made by a company called ProMark Off-Road, who does not seem to be in existence anymore, but I don't care because I don't care. Anyway, I've got the hardware package that came with it, the instructions, all the pieces. I've cleaned up and repainted the front part of the Jeep, so I'm going to get this assembled and I'm going to get it put on. I may never put a winch on it, but if I want to, I want this on and I want my bumper to work with it. So let's do that first. Houston, we have a problem. And I guess it's pretty easy to see what the problem is. This plate's not long enough. It's short by, roughly about an inch, I would guess. And it's funny, the instructions say that this will fit a CJ up to 76 and then from 76 to 86. But I have a feeling nobody had a 76 to 86 CJ-7, and this is a 1980. They didn't have one of these years to actually measure and look at, other than, pictures. They also say that on the older models, the front bolts are 1.25 inches long, and the two rear bolts are like 3.25 inches, and that's because the frame rail is open in the front but boxed in the back. But they tell you to put these inside the frame rails in the back to, keep it from pinching the frame rails and bending it when you tighten it. But there's no way inside those boxed frame rails. You would have to, this whole entire piece in the front would have to be gone, and it's riveted and welded, or you'd have to cut a big ass hole someplace to get those in. So I think what I'm gonna do, and maybe that's why they're not in business anymore. Did I say that? Maybe that's why they're not in business. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave these brackets in place. Now they're bolted on. I'll just put nuts on top of this, and at some point in time, I'll just have to get a 1.5 inch piece of channel that size and just weld that on really well so I can bolt it in. It won't be as strong, but you know what? I don't have a winch to put on it anyway, so I'm not worried right now. And at least I can tell from it being in place there that it's not going to interfere with my new bumper in any way, and that's the main thing I wanted to do. Would have been nice to have it on there, but I'm not going to cry about it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down, put nuts on top of there so they don't rattle around, and we'll move on with the bumper. Okay, so now that I have failed so miserably on the winch plate, I think what I'm going to do, let me get out of the shadow here. I think I'm going to do is take my little $90 plasma cutter that I converted to Pilot Arc and put the nice AG or AC60 torch on it. I'm going to use that and that little crummy Harbor Freight pancake compressor, and I'm going to try and chop these tack welds out of here. I cleaned off a spot for the ground clamp, and I'm going to see how well this works. Try not to set any fires in the process. Well, that was loads of fun getting that off. Don't let anybody tell you that a 110 volt MIG welder won't weld stuff on, because I beat the bleeding daylights out of this trying to break these welds and could not do it. Beat on it with a 4-pound sledge. Even after trying to cut through it with the plasma cutter, I was trying not to damage the original bumper, so I was trying to gouge through it with the plasma cutter, and even after gouging through a few of them, I couldn't get them to break loose. And I welded those many years ago with the first MIG welder I ever bought. In fact, it's sitting right over here. I bought it off a Mac Tools truck. I haven't used it for a long time, but there it is there. Bought that off a Mac Tools truck for about $300, like 30 years ago. Used it a bunch, You can't reverse the polarity, so it's no good for flux core, but sure used it a bunch. And I welded this on with that, and man, those welds are on there. So now I've got the fun chore coming in with a cutting wheel and trimming this back as much as I can, and then grinding it. Okay, well that was about 2 solid hours of first with a cut-off wheel, then with a grinding wheel, and then with a flap disc just to kind of smooth it all up when I was done. But I got all those old welds and mounts and everything off, and other than the fact that it needs a paint job, it's really not looking too bad. So my original intention was to weld the square tube to the face of this. Excuse me, it's a rectangle tube. I know that triggers a couple of you out there. But anyway, a 2x4 rectangle tube over this, because this is 4x2 itself. And just have it be a bit longer, match the length of the one in the back. And I think I'm still going to go with that. But it's also, and I'm also going to put 2 more recovery points like the ones I put in the back here and here. But it also dawns on me that this thing's only held on with 4 3/8 bolts, and that's all that's holding that on there. So what I thought I'd do is take something like this, and this is just a piece I have. I'm not going to use this. I'm probably going to get 1/4 inch and go weld it to the back of that and go there, and then on the other side as well, and then over there and there, and that would give me some more beefy attachment points. And because the holes are already there to do it, where these bolts are in for the winch plate brackets, which I still have to make fit right, but nonetheless, that would give me 4 more big heavy attachment points for that. So I think that's the plan. I have more of those big shackle mount things coming. Should have those in the next couple of days, and they're going to go all the way through to the back and get welded all the way around on both sides. And yeah, then these are going to go on. Have to make sure everything's going to work together, but that's the plan right now. And I think I'm going to stop this one here for now, because it's probably getting kind of long. This turned out to be more work than I thought, with the winch plates and everything that didn't fit, and then all the cutting and grinding on that piece. I have and it's Wednesday now, I have a product review I need to kick out this weekend, and after we do that, then I will come back and I'll finish this up. I'm still waiting on those weld through shackle mounts anyway. So anyway, I think that's it for now. Appreciate you guys all watching and subscribing, hitting like and all that stuff. And we'll finish this up in the next one. Or not the next one, because the next one's going to be a product review, but the next one after that one.